Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wandering Scribe Book Impressions episode. Now, for today's episode, we'll be diving into the work of my good friend, author Jasmine Young. And the book we'll be reading today is A Breaking of Realms. Now, A Breaker of Realms is an exhilarating new dragon rider versus Vikings epic that merges Eragon's rich lore with the world building of Pern and the dragon magic of Ascendant. The realm building enterprise is open to all. On the continent of Elondria, anyone may become the next legendary dragon rider by building the most significant towns, cities, and even kingdoms. Skálda Branwright dreams of leaving the Longcold and becoming the first Dragonlord to construct the official realm. Only no dragon egg has ever hatched for her, but when a wild hatchling falls to her from the skies begging for rescue, she must decide whether to relinquish her dreams and become the worst criminal of all, a rogue rider, one with the potential to restore mankind's sovereignty from the brutal domain of elves. The realm building enterprise was meant to unite all races until it became a means for elves to control the continent. But this is no ordinary dragon. No, 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 no. By the time Skálda realizes what she holds in her hands, it is much too late. She never meant to steal a hatchling, she always meant to build a realm. She never wanted to break the continent, but a realm breaker is coming. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Chapter 1 Rightfest. In the far north, on the western fringes of the world, which is called the Longcold or Skånald in the Svenning, one cannot say if the second breaking of the realms began with the scorch that would soon streak from the dark skies, or the reeve that took all the lives at Osmundel. For Skálda Branwright, it began with the dream of falling. She was falling in the dark. Winds rushed up into her face. Her limbs were breaking through clouds. She was freezing and burning, but the fall would not end. The quaking air meant to tear out her eyes. A foreign voice pulsed into her mind. Help! 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 Skálda burst upright, off her pallet. The dream ended, and she went back in the corner of the barn. The pure terror from the dream was fading, but the voice still lingered. Help. Not her own. Not any coherent human word, but it had been a consuming feeling. She pressed a hand over her eyes, evening out her breathing. It was many solaces since she had dreams, and none this vivid. Help, help. Even now the plea echoed in her mind like the fading ring of steel. A new voice called to her from outside, this one solid and human. Skálda! Skálda! Before she could rise, the barn doors groaned. Whoever was on the other side attempted to pull it through the snow bank, cursed, and pulled harder. The young man came tumbling back. Daft, said Kale, stepping past him and into the barn. Skálda, you're awake and ready, right? Matt, her other best friend, picked himself up and dusted snow off his slovenly robes. They looked like the same ones he had worn, or rather slept in, since the beginning of time. Of course not. Pick this of all days sleep in. What would your mothers think? She said, showing up unannounced in my bedroom. Bedroom? Kale squinted at the half-frozen peeling raptors and the 4 chickens and ewe she had as housemates. Leaped off. Hrafjal, Kale, as if you live in a manse. He smiled as she tossed aside her patched blanket and wriggled into the oversized coat crumpled at the foot of her bedstead. It was paler than even her hair, made of skaldwolf fur. Unlike the wool cloaks most islanders wore, this one was a fraction of the weight, only about 3 lumens. It would keep her warm enough for today. Lastly, she snatched Snoga, her axe, off the crude nail fixed above her wooden pallet. Oh, good, said Matt. She's ready before she shows up late for her own right fest. And he was back out the door. Have you had breakfast yet? Said Kale. I'm not hungry. Skálda, you need to eat. His voice faded as she glanced through the barn door. Nothing hovered in the skies but glacial clouds. Kale touched her back. Everything all right? Though the plea from her dream troubled her, she nodded and followed Matt outside. Her boots crunched over the ice, and the familiar sting of the north smarted on her cheeks. Skálda inhaled the cold, hating and cherishing it. Glancing at the sky alone would not tell her the time of day. Even in spring, it was always a dramatic slate. But the buzzing energy on Bregan Island suggested it was the 8th hour. Late. Too late. Usually he was up by the 4th. They left behind Sculler's Row, the poorest district on the island, and wound around Seven Fisk, the frozen bight where Hersher Bergic ran his fishing operations. She shooed aside a flock of sheep. Skull Post was on the other side of Bregan's village. They would have to pass through more than the whimpering creatures and a score more longhouses before they made it. Skálda crossed through the wealthier Gunning district where Matt lived before becoming a writer. He got the faint scent of oak in the wood smoke. Someone was boiling their porridge with honey. Her belly pulled. The last meal had been yesterday morning. Stone hard barley tossed with mugroot and thistles she found in the Criscalad. But her body was used to hunger, and her thoughts soon drifted again. By the time they reached the feast grounds outside Premier's Hall, the morning air was thundering. Skálda widened her eyes. It looked like every able-bodied on the Stronglet's 12 islands had gathered on Bregan. It was a grand 200 people in one spot, more people than she was used to seeing. "We found her," Matt yelled, waving his hand at no one in particular. He was thick inside the crowds, bodies jolted into Skálda, drawing her glares. Mostly adults at the Dragon's Post outdoor long tables were drunk, though that was not unusual. "Make way, skits," Matt hollered. "Make way for the hunter of scald wolves." Kale stayed close to her side, sensing her discomfort. On the continent of Elondria, there was only one solstice a year. Skullpost hosted Rite Fest every 5 solstices, a rite of passage for anyone who passed their 15th solstice but was no older than their 21st. In Joffried, Anders' mine, this was a range safe enough to practice in the dangers of the event. Though gathering at the posts were nothing new to her, Skálda could never get used to them. Matt Skull's post second helped her wrinkle to the front. All the island's heads were present, along with Skull's remaining 3 riders. Their little Pikas stayed by their side. Dragons, though they were, Pikas had round heads with 2 short ears in place of majestic horns. They more resembled grass snakes on wings, cute but hardly formidable. And of course, there was Elderman Joffried Anders himself, post leader and official authority of the Longcold. Their backs were turned to Framjalv, the ice peak across the fisheries. It was an imposing sight, even though it was half an hour's jog away. She waited to feel nervousness, but her senses were a glacier of calm. All right, is everyone here?" Anders was shouting from his dragon, Noster's saddle. "If not, Miss Right Fest at your peril. The solstice prize is incomparable to any other." Skálda glanced around at her competitors. Though most were her age, she was smaller than them all. Even so, the Gunning children were cloaked in wool so heavy her back ached just looking at them. Others clung to their parents and wailed for an exemption. Their paps and mums urged them to at least give themselves a chance. "Soft mutton," she thought. "Remind you of the rules today," Anders called. Everyone knew the rules, but the buzz magnified as the precursory ceremonies moved to a reasonable end. "Your goal is to climb Shrounjafal to the top and back, following the blue signpost. You must follow the post. To aid you, you may select one weapon of choice." He lowered his voice dramatically. "For the Scald Wolves." Many young men cheered, though a few parents whispered, "It's all theatrics." Gunning father assured his boy. Skálda trained her eyes ahead. If they scaled Thranfinjal, they would certainly encounter Scald wolves. Of course, you can appeal to Fignolfa's ravens for mercy at any time. Simply yell, "Mercy, Fingolfa," and may turn back. You will sit out for the remainder